All right, let's talk about retirement in Canada. We all have the same goal, right? Pay as little tax as humanly possible. But what if I told you the smartest way to a richer retirement isn't about paying less tax, but actually paying more? Yeah, I know it sounds completely backwards, but stick with me here. We're going to break down exactly how this works.
I mean, of course that's the goal. You've spent your entire life working, saving, investing. The absolute last thing you want to do is just hand over a giant slice of that pie to the government. It's all about protecting that nest egg you've worked so hard for. Okay, but this is where things get really interesting. What if tunnel visioning on that one single goal, getting the lowest tax bill possible every single year, was actually a huge, massive mistake? I know it's a totally counterintuitive idea, but trust me, it is a powerful one. So yeah, hang in there with me. We are going to dive headfirst into this paradox that's right at the heart of retirement planning. We're going to see how paying more tax can, believe it or not, leave you and your family with way more money in the end. Getting your head around this is, well, it's everything.
So what's the real problem here? Honestly, it's not the tax itself. The problem is that we get so hyper-focused on our annual tax return, that one single document, that we completely miss the bigger picture. It's that classic saying, right? We're staring so hard at the individual trees that we can't see the whole financial forest of our retirement.
And here's the thing. That big picture thinking, it has to start way before you actually hang up your hat. We're talking ideally 5, even 10 years out. That's the window where you optimize which accounts you're putting your money into. Because, and this is so important, if you save too much in the wrong places, like piling everything into an RSSP, you're basically creating a tax time bomb for yourself, one that's going to go off later, push you into crazy high tax brackets, and even cause the government to claw back your benefits. Ouch! Okay, so how do we avoid that? How do we build a smarter plan? Well, it all starts with understanding the tools in your toolkit. So let's dive into the foundational strategies that every single Canadian retiree absolutely needs to know.
First up, non-refundable tax credits. Now, the easiest way to think about these is like coupons from the government. You can use them to slash your tax bill, even all the way down to zero. The only catch is you can't get cash back, so you can't go below zero. Everyone in Canada gets the basic personal amount. But then, once you hit 65, you get to stack on the age amount and the pension income tax credit. And let me tell you, when you put those three together, you've got a seriously powerful tax-cutting machine.
So just how powerful are we talking? Well, for a couple, the combined power of these credits is huge. It means you two can bring in about $55,000 of taxable income a year and pay pretty much zero federal tax. Think about that for a second. 55 grand tax-free. That is a massive, massive advantage. But here's the trick, right? You have to generate that income in a really specific way. It's all about layering your income sources, kind of like building a perfect cake. The base layer, your foundation, is your government benefits, CPP and OAS. Then, the next layer is strategic withdrawals from your RRSP, just enough to use up all those awesome tax credits we just talked about. And if you need more money for spending, that's the icing on the cake. You top it all up with totally tax-free money from your TFSA.
When you do this right, this layering strategy creates this beautiful financial sweet spot. For a typical couple who's paid off their house, you're looking at about $75,000 a year in after-tax spending money. That's a really comfortable retirement, and you're doing it while paying next to nothing in tax. The problems really start when you need to spend more than that, because that's when those marginal tax rates start to climb and they really begin to bite.
All right, theory is great and all, but let's make this real. Let's see how this actually works in practice. So we're going to look at a case study of a couple we'll call Deborah and David. They're both 65 and ready to retire.
Okay, so let's look at two different ways they could do this. First, there's the common mistake, which we'll call the bad plan. This is where they just drain their RRSPs first. Bad idea. It creates a ton of income up front and means they pay a whole bunch of tax they didn't need to. Then there's the better plan. This one uses that smart income layering we just talked about. They mix their income sources perfectly to use up all their tax credits. And the result? Their tax bill is zero. Sounds like a home run, right? Absolutely perfect.
But wait a second. This is where it gets wild. This is where we uncover that crazy paradox I mentioned at the start. Because that better plan, the one that got them a $0 tax bill, might not actually be the best plan for them.
So this forces us to ask a really important question. Sure, we hit the goal of paying zero tax, but did we get the best possible financial outcome for Deborah and David over their entire lives? And the answer, maybe surprisingly, is nope.
Not even close.
You see, the best plan of all needs a holistic approach. That just means looking beyond the income tax line on your return and seeing the entire system. This includes things like government benefit clawbacks. That's a big one. It's basically a hidden tax. If your income goes over a certain line, the government starts taking back some of your old age security benefits. A truly holistic plan also thinks strategically about the timing, like when is the absolute best moment to start taking your CPP to get the most money possible over your lifetime.
And here is where you can see the paradox in black and white. On the left, you've got our better plan, the zero tax hero. And on the right, that's the truly optimized best plan. And look at that. It results in paying way more tax over their whole retirement. I know, it feels completely wrong. It just doesn't make sense, does it?
Until you see the final score. This is the payoff. By strategically paying more tax along the way, the final amount of money left in their estate is dramatically higher. Let that sink in. You pay more to the government, and you end up with much more for yourself and your family. That is the paradox in action.
So this table just lays it all out nice and clear. The bad plan, the common mistake, you pay some tax and you leave the least amount of money behind. The better plan, the zero tax strategy. Hey, it's an improvement. No tax paid and more money in the end. But then look at the best plan. It's the one that pays the most tax and it leaves behind a significantly larger estate. It's not even a close race.
So what are we supposed to do with all this information? What does it mean for you and your planning? Let's boil this all down to the single most important takeaway.
You know, there's a quote from the original article that just nails it. It says, if we focus too much on tax as the main metric, we might be missing additional strategies that could help the plan significantly. And that's it right there. Tax is just one number. And if it's the only number you're looking at, you are almost guaranteed to be leaving money on the table.
Now, it's super important to remember this. What worked for our hypothetical couple, Deborah and David, might not be the exact right recipe for you. Everyone's situation is unique. Your best strategy is going to depend entirely on your specific mix of income, your assets, your goals, everything. The principle we've talked about is universal for sure, but how you apply it, that's deeply personal.
And that really leaves us with one last big question to think about. Winning the battle is getting the lowest tax bill you can this April. But winning the war is about maximizing your family's wealth over your entire lifetime. So you have to look at your own retirement plan and ask yourself a simple question. Are you building it to win the battle or to win the war?